Hello, guys. Welcome to another fresh and exciting episode. Today on Control or Be Controlled, a podcast designed to help you start thinking differently and take control of your life. And as always, I remain your host, Darlington. Today's guest is Dr. Jonathan Locust Jr., Dr. J. He's a researcher, thought leader, and founder of ConsciRise, ConsciRise, a platform focused on helping people heal, grow, and reconnect with themselves through community and self awareness. Dr. J, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me and appreciate you creating a space for a conversation like this to happen. So thank you.
All right, so I would like you to also add a little bit to that introduction.
Yeah, I would say maybe a few other things to add was, I guess, prior to some of the things of kind of arriving to this space that I'm at now, I was on the path of being a university president. I was a vice president in the Minnesota system, and it was really during that path of um, while being there and while dealing with a health issue which was very difficult. One of the hardest things I've ever dealt with, and that was really, I would say, the mechanism that set me on the trajectory of the road and path that I've been on to this day.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. J. So, you're on a path towards becoming a university president and held leadership roles in higher education. What caused you to pause that journey and begin exploring consciousness, healing, and personal transformation?
Yeah, I would say, as I had mentioned when I was in my university role, I had a health issue. And it was really that health issue that got me to start investigating these things. I was told by the doctor that we would not be able to have another child. I would have to be on medicine for the rest of my life. And it was hard. It was literally one of the more difficult things. And as I started to then see, okay, how do I heal myself? Then that became a question of not only self inquiry, but a path of understanding and learning about fasting and being able to see and using fasting and meditation as a mechanism to understand why I had my health issue. And I ended up over the course, I started doing a day fast, a 3-day water fast, 5-day water fast. And then I worked my way up to about 14 days. I was going to do a 14-day water fast. And I did 14 days. And then I ended up like following that fast, like ate an apple and was like, you know what, I'm going to just do another 10. So I ended up doing 24 days altogether, one apple, just water. And that was that one apple I had. But it was really during that time too, is following that fast, retesting, and seeing that I had completely not only healed myself, but also had understood why I had that health issue and what was it that actually developed in my body. And after I healed that, I understood those things. That was when I started and just wanted to understand more about myself, my life, and how I can use my mind to then be able to have just higher levels of conscious awareness.
All right, Dr. J. So, your 24-day fast became a major turning point in your life. What did that experience teach you about the body, the mind, and human potential?
Yeah, I would say for one, if anyone has fasted, they know it's difficult. Not only are we used to eating, right? Because depending on how many times a day we eat, we're used to eating. Some of us even, and I raise my hand, are emotional eaters. So I know if I have a good day or something good happen, I'm gonna get me something really good to eat. Well, if maybe something don't go as well, I'm still probably gonna give me something really good to eat. So I know I've been a person who emotionally eats. So fasting it's not something that is easy. But when you do fast, the body starts to consume itself, and the first thing that is to go are the things that the body no longer needs, and then from a mental perspective, you can then direct that consumption to even certain thoughts or habits that you have in your life that you don't no longer want in your life. So that's also is like a kind of a something else about fasting too. So and the other thing that I'll even mention too is during that time, I also learned about the connection. We talk about mind, body, and spirit. So I would still work out and I would go on these long runs. And I started to see to where I was able to clearly see it was a pattern to where whenever I would get tired, it's maybe about, let's say about if I'm doing like a 10-mile run, this may be around mile 2 to where I'm like, oh man, I'm starting to kind of feel it. Then you get, your boost of energy. But at those times, I would get just really tired or exhausted. I would see an animal, butterfly, a bird that would just fly by, that I would get like a message or to keep going, a sense of inspiration to where it would happen to where I was able to see this is a pattern. And that was something I really kind of understood, that not only the connection between our mind, body, and spirit, but the connection that our mind, body, and spirit has with nature. And then the last thing I'll say is, when you do fast, I think there is a reward from the universe, and that award is being able to access higher fields of awareness, like I did with understanding the relationship with now nature, and when I would go and exercise and run, me being able to direct certain energies in my body to be consumed. Your mind will unlock certain things for you, and those things are not only spiritual in nature, but allows you to be able to go about seeing the world in a more unified way.
All right. So moving on, you have described ConsciRise as being born from both healing and betrayal. How did a difficult experience become the inspiration for building a trusted wellness community?
Yeah, when I talked about my health issue, when I was looking to heal myself, I just came across people who were just honestly scammers, who didn't care and they tried to take advantage of people. So that was kind of a huge like moment for me to be able to realize that, this space doesn't have protections like higher education or the health and medical industry, because you have accreditation agencies that make sure that they have to do things to protect consumers. And this space doesn't have that. So when I went on to just kind of, and when I was still in my higher education role, I had this experience and was just kind of thinking, has what happened to me happened to other people? And to go on and see that, just to find, just in the US alone, there's been over 8 million people scammed out of over $3 billion. And one of them was just a recent lawsuit. There were people in Canada sending mail to people in the US asking if they wanted spiritual services. And people start sending money back, and they scammed people out of $175 million. So I started to see that these things are happening. They continue to happen. And so we wanted to then be able to solve that problem, to be able to provide people who are looking for these types of services an environment that is safe, but that also is an environment to where they know that the person they are dealing with went through a 5-step vetting process. They filled out an application. They went through 2 interviews. They actually, their credentials were verified. All of these different things that I did not have in my experiences, and to be able to protect the consumer, to know that the person that they're dealing with is not only a real person, but they're an expert in what their modality of expertise is. So that was really what we wanted to do, is not only create something that was, again, born out of my experiences of people attempting to scam me, but to also for us to have the ability to protect others from being scammed.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. J. So, your background includes psychometric research and behavioral modeling. How do scientific approaches and spiritual exploration work together in understanding human transformation?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think, like for me, a lot of my brain is trying to provide predictions or evidence that certain things are real, or to be able to try to better understand human behavior. So we have that, and I think there's another piece that is, investigating the non-material. And so that's kind of the two sides of my brain work. But when you look at how they come together, I think there is existing research that is out there that a lot of people just may not necessarily know about. So for example, like the University of Virginia, they have their School of Medicine has a program of perpetual studies to where they have essentially proven reincarnation. They actually have studied reincarnation. Well, they didn't start by studying reincarnation. It came about by them studying birthmarks and birthmarks on children. And it would be the parents that would report that their children would be talking about these different stories associated with their birthmarks. And these are kids saying that they were may have either burned or been shot. Any of these different things talking about their birthmark. Well, that's been proven. They've also been able. You listen to the telepathy tapes. There has been people. They've proven that there are autistic kids. There are autistic children and non-speakers that are telepathic, that are communicating telepathically with their minds all across the world, right? They also proved that there was a case, I think this was in London, to where there was a blind girl. So a girl who was blind was actually able to see through her mother's eyes. And they did a number of different tests to be able to prove, putting them in two different rooms and things like that, that she was able to identify and see what her mother was looking at. So there has been research. I think a lot of it is just kind of less known, but that do exist that talks about these things.
All right, Dr. J. So, burnout has become increasingly common among professionals and leaders. When someone feels exhausted, disconnected, or lost, where should they begin their journey back to themselves?
I would say, that's a really good question. And I would say there's a number of different ways, right, that people can do it. So what I'm going to offer and what I'm going to share are not only things that I have tried personally, but are also things that are free, that you don't got to pay any money to go out and get. So the first one I would say is, if you're looking at just starting, I guess you can start by interpreting your dreams. So if you're having dreams, your dreams is an attempt for your unconscious self to communicate with your conscious self. So if you're going through something serious and you're not sitting down to understand what your dreams are, you're doing yourself a huge disservice. So I would say that could be just kind of like a start point. There's a number of different processes where you can start. I would specifically look at, which is what I use, is Jungian dream analysis. Carl Jung, that's Jung. So if you looked up Jungian, Jungian, dream analysis, you would be able to then see how to be able to go about doing that. Another one I would say is you could journal. A journal is also a way for one to be able to see kind of like historical accounts of the events of their lives, but to see that they have grown in certain areas. So journaling, that's an easy one. I will say meditation, breathing. You can go on YouTube, easily get a quick 5-minute, 10-minute meditation. Of course, if you can go longer for those who may want a guided meditation. But that's a great place to be able to start. And there are some people who are even more. I have some friends who are very artistic, and they actually are really good at visualizing. So for those who can visualize, I think if you're feeling stressful, you can visualize your spine extending to the core of the earth. And while in that visualization, you are essentially giving the earth what you feel no longer serves you, and then receiving what it is you feel does serve you. Remember, we are in a cyclical environment. So our waste, what we breathe out, carbon dioxide, is what the plants need, right? They breathe in carbon dioxide. Their waste is oxygen, which is what our lifeline is. So we know we're in a very cyclical, well-balanced environment. So we can give the earth what we feel no longer serves us and receive what we feel we do need. So those are just kind of a few things that you can do. And another one is read. You can spend your time either reading about different spiritual concepts around consciousness, whether that's about dream interpretation, whether it's about the different archetypes, whether it's about meditation, or whether it's about like aligning concepts. I'm even looking at some of the books I have. I have a book right here it's called the Hidden Messages in Water. And what it does is it looks at the messages that water hides. So if you tell water that you love it versus you hate it, then the water will start to crystallize in different patterns. And they research and they measure this. So that is important to us because the human body is 80% water. So our thoughts, how are our thoughts crystallizing? So there's a number of different things of how people can be able to start. But again, I wanted to begin by sharing some things that people can do that are free. And the last thing I will say is that no matter what you're going through, you can always at any time, and even if you got 2 seconds, go somewhere quiet, breathe in and breathe out. And you can do that as much as you want, as long as you want, until you feel like you're ready to return. You don't got to take a lot of time, but just taking a few breaths at the midst or at the height of an intense situation can be so much more calming and relaxing. And again, you can do that for free. You don't got to go out and pay nobody. That can be done right now.
All right. So looking ahead, how do you believe a deeper understanding of consciousness will influence leadership, business, and human development in the coming years?
Yeah, I think what'll happen is you're already seeing things that are happening. So even like Pew Research, PEW Research, they measure religion versus spirituality. And people are identifying more spiritual, less religious, right? So we're seeing that. I think we're also seeing how people are even more exercising and exercising how they spend their money, right? And does this organization that I'm spending my money with align with my values, right? I remember, and I was in the U.S., Black people stopped shopping at Target. And, I was in Minnesota. I was a VP in the Minnesota system during the murder of George Floyd. So all of that's done, everything about Black people from not protesting against Target came in the midst of them doing all of these things during the murder of George Floyd. Then following that, when the Trump administration then removing all of those things. So, but Black people said, we don't like the values that they have, so we're not going to shop with them. And look what happened to their stock price. So I think there's going to be more of that, of more people saying as they become more spiritually inclined or more consciously inclined, they are going to spend their dollars in a more conscious way. And they're going to be able to then see, not only is this person in alignment with my value set, but is their conscious alignment. What are they doing and what type of services are they offering? And I think the last thing is we'll start to see incorporation of just more spiritual and conscious based topics in business at overall. So I think, for a while there was servant leadership. And I know that servant leadership is something that's big now, but you look at servant leadership books, there are a ton of servant leadership books. And I think that's going to then start to be able to shift more into conscious leadership. And there's going to be a ton of things on conscious leadership. And I think lastly, there will be an incorporation of just more natural based elements and products. So I think like I've learned about laundry detergent that incorporated crystals. So I think there's going to be more things that are happening like that as well.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. J. Thank you for sharing with us your insights and uh, the journey of healing, awareness, and conscious leadership. The message highlights the connection between personal transformation and the way we show up in our work, relationships, and communities. So, for listeners who want to learn more about ConsciRise, your research, or connect with your work, where can they find you?
Yeah, so they can find us at ConsciRise.com. That is ConsciRise.com. And ConsciRise is for consciousness rising. And you are more than willing. We have events that we have that are absolutely free. So we do a mind, body, spirit series over the course of 7 weeks. We do that quarterly. So we do it 4 times a year. So 28 weeks out of the year, we're offering free program. So that's one of the things that we do. And for those who maybe want a more structured path, we have a concierge service where one can go through a process and create a survey, and based on those survey results, we will then return them 3 to 5 different practitioners that can help them. And then they pick who they want to move forward with. They can pick one, they can pick two, they can pick all 5. They get to choose and navigate their journey, and we're just walking with them. So they can find us at ConsciRise.com. And if anybody wants to find me, they can find me Dr. Jonathan Locust. So they can Google search me. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok at JLOCUSTJR. You can follow ConsciRise and myself also on YouTube.
All right. Thank you so much. I'm sure my audience will reach out and connect with you. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you.